Welcome to Ordering Legal Documents. In this lesson, you'll learn the basics of how to insert, change, and control page numbers, headers, and footers. Then become a word wizard when you learn to insert page numbers in any format, turn page numbers on and off, restart page numbers anywhere in the document, and change number formats. We'll even show you how to include an unnumbered title page. After this lesson, you'll no longer be mystified by page numbering and footers, and you'll have the magic power to control how and where numbers appear on your pages. We'll cover features which are available for Microsoft Word for Windows or Mac.
Hello, and welcome to Ordering Legal Documents. Today we're talking about page numbering, title pages, and section breaks. I'm Ivy Gray from WordRank, and we've got Baron Henley from Affinity Consulting to help us with training today. Take it away, Baron.
Okay, hi everyone. So we're going to learn about, in the aggregate, it's called section formatting. There are three kinds of formatting in Word. Font, which obviously is, typeface, point size, bold, italic, underline, etc. Paragraph formatting, which is everything else about how a paragraph looks. So indents, tabs, line spacing, spacing between paragraphs, paragraph alignment, and paragraph numbering. And then whole document formatting, which would include margins, paper size, orientation, headers and footers, and columns. That's all section formatting. And section formatting is strange in that the formatting that you apply applies to the whole section. It doesn't care where you are within the section, where your cursor is, or what. Section formatting gets everything at once. So if I just click my cursor in here and I go to the layout ribbon and I say columns, it will automatically affect, in this case, this whole document, including the exhibits, is all one section. So it affected the entire document. And it wouldn't have mattered. Let me put that back. Let's say another section formatting, as I mentioned, is orientation. So let's say right here at Exhibit A, I wanted this to print wide, so I want to make this landscape. Now, if you come from a WordPerfect background, where your cursor was mattered 100% of the time, because if you did a thing, the thing you just applied is going to start taking effect wherever your cursor was. Okay, section formatting simply doesn't adhere to that. If I went up to this and said orientation landscape, well, since this is all one section, including the exhibits, it doesn't care that my cursor was in front of Exhibit A. It's going to make the whole document landscape. Okay, so if I only want a section formatting attribute to apply to only certain areas of the document, then I must add what's called a section break to the document to cut it into multiple sections. Section formatting will stay within the section you inserted it in the first place. It will not jump section lines. Okay, so when you create a new document by default, it's all one section. However, you can add section breaks, and it's in the layout ribbon, breaks button, and there's four kinds of section breaks, and you're only really ever going to use the top two here, and 99% of the time it's going to be the first one, which is next page. So I usually want to start a new section formatting attribute on the top of the next page. Like I want to change my footers, I want to change margins or something like that. A continuous section break, which I'll show you how that works, that's when you want to apply different section formatting somewhere in the middle of a page. In other words, just not at the top of the next page. Even in odd, you're probably only ever going to use something like that if you publish books. So for legal applications, it's almost always this. A regular page break is this guy. And a regular page break starts me at the top of a new page, of course, but it does not allow me to change any formatting. All right. So first thing, this is kind of a little side note. Word, by default, does not tell you what section you are in a particular document, which I find to be quite annoying. So let me show you a way of forcing Word to tell you. At the bottom of the Word window is this little gray bar. All the way at the bottom, you see I'm hovering over it down here, and this is called the status bar. And if you right-click anywhere on the status bar, it will show you a list of things the status bar can show you. And the top two here are not checked by default. And you would definitely want them checked. So one time in Word, you can have a blank document, it doesn't even matter. Right-click the little gray bar at the bottom of the Word screen and come up here and check off section and formatted page number. Thereafter, it will show you, as you will see down here, that I am in section 1. And let me tell you, that's important information. So why there's no other way to tell what section you're in, I couldn't tell you. People at Microsoft don't listen to me, but you need to know. So make sure you turn that on. So if I wanted to, going back to this idea, if I wanted Exhibit A to be landscape, but not the rest of the document, then in between the signature lines and Exhibit A, I need a section break. So the question is, what's there now? Click on Home, click on our friend the Show Hide button, and you'll see it. There's page break sitting there. So that's not going to help me. So I need to get rid of this page break. So I simply put my cursor, I click on the line that it's on, my cursor's blinking to the left, and I just hit a delete key and it'll get rid of it. Or I could select it and hit a delete key. In either event, you can see Exhibit A is now up under the signature line. I want to leave my cursor right there, and I'm going to go Layout, Break, and because I want this to be at the top of a new page, I'm doing a next page section break. The line will look different. It's labeled differently, as you can see, section break, next page. And now if I look down in the corner of my screen, you can see it's telling me I'm in section 2. It doesn't matter where in section 2 I am. It could be anywhere in section 2. If I go to orientation and landscape, it's only going to affect section 2. So here's a way to think about these section breaks. The analogy is, like, we live in an uptight neighborhood where you're not allowed to have fences, you're not allowed to have anything. Like, all the houses have to be the same color, can't have clotheslines, can't have visible gardens, you can't, it's ridiculous. So anyway, we got a dog. Well, that's kind of a problem because now the dog's like, this entire neighborhood is my yard, bye. So we had to get one of those invisible fences where they bury a wire around the periphery of your yard, and the dog wears a collar and it beeps at her if she gets close to the line. That's what a section break is like. You can't see them if you don't have your show hide turned on, but your dog, being the formatting, will not cross the line unless they're really amped up about something, as we discovered. But in any event, like a squirrel, for example, they might be willing to endure the pain of crossing that line, but the formatting in Word will not do that. So it is another reason you want to have your show hide button turned on if you're working in a complex document, because you don't want to trip over one of these things, and you certainly don't want to accidentally delete it. Because here's another weird thing about Word. I got 2 sections. The top section, my document is portrait, and the bottom is landscape. So section 2 is landscape. If I delete this section break, watch what happens. This is not what I think, this is not what I would have expected. The formatting, so now the whole document is landscape. So the formatting from section 2 jumped up and applied itself to section 1. I would think that I deleted the section break between 1 and 2. I thought the 1 would apply to 2, but it's the opposite of that. So that you can see, like, if you delete section breaks and they're doing something for you, you're going to get maybe an unexpected result. So let me put that back. Anyway, you got to do this first. So I think, what kind of formatting do I want to apply? Section formatting. Okay, drop your break in first, then do your thing. Let me point out one more thing about section breaks. If they're in your document, but they're not playing a role, that's not good. All that's going to do is make your document harder to edit. So let me give you an example. Lawyer sends me a document, and he's like, I don't know what's wrong with this stupid document. It's a 37-page document, and it skips page 8. And I'm like, what? What do you mean? He goes, I can't get it to number. It goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, 10, 11. And I'm like, wow, that's weird. So I open it up, and I go to the last page, and it says I'm in section 37 on the 37th page. So I'm like, okay, he's got 36 section breaks in here. So I nuked all of his section breaks, and the page numbering started to work just fine. And I sent it back to him, and he goes, oh, that's great. What'd you do? And I'm like, well, you had 36 section breaks in the document, none of which were doing anything for you except making it hard to number your pages. And he goes, this is common, what's a section break? And I'm like, let's do a web meeting. Layout, break, next page. And here was his response. I've never done that in my life. I didn't even know that was there. So how does that happen? Okay, here, this is one of the problems of recycling old documents. You saved a train wreck as a new file name, and now you're working with that train wreck. But what often happens is, since a lot of us, if you've been word processing long enough, you probably used WordPerfect at some point. Can Word open a WordPerfect document? Oh yeah, it can. I can hit File, Open. I can open up, I can click on this memorandum, and I can click Open. And guess what? It'll open it. Okay. Now, I want you to notice I got Show Hide turned on. There's a section break right there. Let's scroll down. There's a section break right here. You see that? Let's scroll down. There's a section break right here. There's a section break over here. So can Word show you a terrible rendering of the original WordPerfect document? Yes. And it's going to litter that thing with section breaks. Okay, are these doing anything for me? No. Is their section formatting different here to here? No. So these are just latent defects in my document. And because most people never turn on Show Hide and don't even see those things, they persist. It is also not unusual for somebody to send me a document that they've been using for literally decades. And they're like, well, I don't know why the formatting's so messed up in this. Well, you've been using it for 25 years and recycling it and copying and pasting stuff into it. And originally it was a WordPerfect file, and you should not be surprised that this is a giant mess now. When that kind of thing happens, just as an additional aside, we don't, like, if you think about a document, a Word document as a container, a bucket, your bucket has got holes, it's rusted out, and there's no way to repair it. Even with that Flex Seal, you can't repair this bucket. It's just, the best thing to do is make a new bucket. So if I was going to fix this document, I'd hit Control A, Control C, I'd create a blank new document, and I would go up here and I'd hit Paste, and I'd come down to this little icon, which is Keep Text Only, and I would paste in just the raw text with no formatting whatsoever. And then I will rebuild the formatting to match the original document. And I know that seems like a rather scorched earth approach to creating templates, but this is the only way I can absolutely guarantee you will have perfect file stability. You'll have no weirdness going forward, because I don't know where that other document came from. And that also eliminates all the section breaks. This is now a one section document. So if you go copy and paste with no formatting, you'll still get your page breaks, but not your section breaks. So this went from a however many sections it was previously to a one section document, and now I can rebuild it. Then actually, I get to skip a whole bunch of annoying things I would otherwise have to do if I tried to fix that document in its original container. So
I do this a lot when I get a document that is behaving weirdly and I can't figure out what the person before me did. And it works incredibly well. I would recommend, however, that you print out whatever it is the document is that you are trying to get it to look like, and then build your styles and apply the formatting to look that way. But if you simply save over the document that you had before and get rid of the other one, then it can be a little bit hard to figure out what you did before. If you are at a firm that has styling tools, then often paralegals and secretaries will come along and save you by doing this and then applying the styling tools for you. But you can simply save that person the trouble by either doing it right or leaving your document without formatting and letting the document stylist manage that for you.
Yeah, what I typically do is I'll save it as a different file name entirely. And since I have two screens, I'll put the old messed up document on one screen and the new one I'm fixing on the other screen, and then I can kind of see them side by side. That's actually a super great argument, one of the many good arguments for having more than one screen, so you can see two documents at the same time, particularly when you're trying to repair. Okay.
Low-tech printing works too.
Yes. So another tidbit about this, as I mentioned, headers and footers are included in section formatting. So if you want different headers and footers in the same document, then you need to know about section formatting. And furthermore, this is another weird architectural thing about Word. In WordPerfect, comparing again, since a lot of people came from that, if I drop in a page number, the page number is actually floating above the footer. If there is a footer in the document, then the footer will be below the page number. In Word, it's all one thing. If you put a page number in a document at the bottom of a page, in Word, it's actually inside the footer. Okay. And here's another weird thing about headers and footers in Word. they exist regardless of whether or not anyone ever clicked insert, header, or footer. Okay, this is a total fiction. If I create a blank new document, I haven't saved it and I haven't typed anything in, and I certainly haven't inserted a header or footer. Do you think there's one here? Oh yeah, there's a blank. Watch, I'm going to double click on the white space up here. I am in, obviously, the header. It's telling me you're in the header. Okay, did I insert one? No, it was already there. So just so you know, every Word document already has headers and footers. What you do is irrelevant, except to what do you type inside the header or footer. Okay, so here's another way you can get to it. If I right click in the space where the header would be, you'll notice I get a little option to edit header. Same thing. So if the double click cadence is a little confusing or doesn't work well for you, you can always just right click in the space and edit footer. Now, if I right click in the body of the document, you're not going to get an edit header, edit footer option. So that's how you know you're not in the right spot. Just keep scrolling down and right click down here and then edit header. Then if you want to get out of the header or footer, you'll notice whenever you're in a header or footer, Word conveniently opens up the header footer toolbar. And on the right edge of it is a giant close the header footer box, a button, or you can simply double click anywhere not in the header or footer. So if I double click here, I'm now out of the footer that I was previously in. Okay, so that's just a strange thing about how Word works that's different from other word processors, but just so you know, they're always there, doesn't matter what you do. Okay, now I'm going to take this document back to its original state, which was it's a one section document. So one of the things I do whenever I open up an existing document that I'm going to use as a template, there's several things that I kind of spot check just to make sure everything's cool. And one of the things is I hit Control End, E-N-D, and that takes me to the last line of the last page. And then I go down and I look at my little status bar and I see what section I'm in. And if I go to the last line of the last page and I'm still in section 1, then guess what? No section breaks. It's a one section document. So I know that whatever I do from a section formatting perspective will affect the entire document. Now, if I come down here and it says section 3, I'm going to go, I wonder where the section breaks are. And I am going to go look for them because I want to make sure if they're in here that they're playing a role and serving a purpose. Because if they're not, out of here. One way of doing that, if let's say, they're otherwise hidden, right? You can turn on show hide. And even if you turn on show hide, sometimes they're still hard to find. You can go to the home ribbon, click the bottom of the find or the little drop down next to the find button and choose advanced find. This should be renamed useful find. This, not useful, this useful. So advanced find, remember that you're going to click, if you don't, if you see this, you're going to click the more button. If there's anything in the box, just delete it. But if I go down to special, you can actually look for section breaks. So if I choose that, it puts in $B. And if I hit find next, it will hyperlink me to the next consecutive section break. So if you're like, where are these things? It's a really long document. You can say, now this is all one section. So it's going to go, there aren't any, this is one section. But if there were more than one, it would have taken me to that section. And you could, of course, just type in $B. And that's once you learn all the little magic codes Word uses, then you don't have to click more and you don't have to click special and go look for these things. But it can search for those non-printing characters like a section break. Okay, let's talk about page numbering. This is a huge pain point in most legal documents. I have literally had people cry over trying to get page numbering to work. And in particular, if they wanted it to start over. So I'm going to drop in page numbering. I'm going to show you, I think, the best way to do it. And then we're going to do some what ifs. All right. So remember, this is a one section document. We're going to chop it up later, but right now it's a one section document. Now, let's say I'm going to first demonstrate why I don't use the way Word seems to want me to insert page numbers. Let's say that I had a footer in this already, and it just said operating agreement. Okay. Now, it seems that Word, if I want to insert page numbers, it seems intuitively obvious to the casual observer that it wants me to click on insert, and there's this big page number button right here. So I click on it and I go, where do I want my page numbers? I want them in the bottom center. So I go bottom of page and I pick this. 2 negative side effects from this. When I click this, Am I going to get a 1 sitting right here and it's going to leave operating agreement? Oh no, that would be convenient. So that's not how it works. When I click on that, look what happened. It puts me in the footer. Whatever was already in your footer, poof, it's gone. You're welcome. It just deletes it. And then I've got this, now notice, I've got some space here. This is the footer box, I call it. And you'll notice that the 1 is hovering a little bit high in the, it's not centered. It doesn't seem like it's a little bit floating high in there. If you clicked on the home ribbon and you clicked the show hide button, you'd see why. Not only did it delete the thing I had in there and I wanted to stay in there, but it also added an unnecessary hard return after the number, which I always have to go in and delete because that really bothers me. I get really bothered about things that don't bother other people, but that really bothers me. So that seems like a lot of work to get a page number in there. And in particular, like there's a lot of law firms that have a document management system that automatically puts a document ID in the footer. And then you later add page numbers and it deletes the document ID. So this is not good. Okay, let me go back to what we had before. So let's pretend I want to put in page numbers. Here would be I'm going to recommend you follow this methodology. Go into the footer that you want, or the header, wherever it is you want to put your page numbers. My cursor is blinking in the footer. And whenever you do that, that's going to open the header footer ribbon. On the header footer ribbon is the same page number button you see it out here? It's the same one you see under insert. Word has a habit of this. It'll show the same button in multiple ribbons for convenience purposes. So here's what I want you to do. From every document you ever touch, you need a page number for the rest of your life. This is what you want to do. I do still click the page number button, but I do not click top of page, bottom of page, or page margins. I only ever choose current position, plain number. Here's what this does. It deletes nothing. It adds no hard returns. It simply puts the page number code wherever your cursor was. There's no negative side effects whatsoever. So I click on it. Okay, what do you want to do? Center it? Okay, center it. Want to put the word page in front of it? Type the word page. But I don't have to worry about it eliminating anything that was already there. And it's easy to control. All right, so that's the first thing. Now, before I do anything else, I want to show you a little setting. So you can see how it's floating right there in the middle, which is where I want it. But I want to show you why. And that is, if I go to my layout ribbon, this is another little, remember I was talking, if you've seen our previous classes, I pointed out that the groups of buttons on any particular ribbon, they often have a little arrow in the bottom right-hand corner. And the little arrow doesn't look like a button, but it is in fact a button. And this is a little arrow that opens up a dialog I really like in Word because it allows me to see a whole bunch of settings in one little screen. So I click on that and I get this. And so let's talk about the settings here. I've got a bottom margin of 1 inch. So let me go back here and my ruler magically disappeared. So I'm going to turn on my ruler and let's zoom in. Okay, so the 1 inch is this line right here. Okay, that's the 1 inch margin. Now let me go back to that same setting. Why is page number in the middle of this, top to bottom? Well, click on layout. This little setting right here, headers and footers from the edge of the page. The footer will be 1/2 inch. So that's why I said I've got a 1 inch spot for the footer and I want the page number to be 1/2 inch. So it's going to be naturally in the middle. This setting gets wrecked all the time in documents. And I don't know how. Every time somebody sends me one, I'm like, why did you do this? And they're like, I didn't do that. I don't know how it got like that. But here's what happens. These get set to 1. This is going to cause a problem. And I want you to be able to identify the problem. Okay, see how this is pushed up? Now let's go down to later in the document. I'm going to find a page that has this will be a good one. Okay, so here, my 1 inch, look where the text is here. I got to zoom out a little bit. My ruler is not showing up well. This is above, this isn't even close to 1 inch. This is like 1 1/4 inches. So here's a 1/4 inch. And here's another inch. So my text, I said, what did I tell this document I wanted? I said, oh, I want my bottom margin to be 1 inch. I have a much bigger than a 1 inch bottom margin here. It's actually 1 1/4 inches. Why? Because these settings are in conflict. I said, I want a bottom margin of 1 inch, but I also said, oh yeah, and if there's anything in the footer, make it also 1 inch. So if those were able to both be in effect at the same time, the last line of this paragraph would be on top of the page number. I asked them by these conflicting settings to overlap, and Word will not do that. So what does Word do? It pushes the text of the document up so that it's not on top of whatever's in your footer. So I'm asking for a 1 inch bottom margin. I am not getting a 1 inch bottom margin. And you can see this is way too close to the text. So if you see this in a document, it is 100% of the time caused by that little setting. I'm going to go back into the layout launcher. If you want it, this could be 0.7, it could be 0.4, it could be 0.3, but it can't be 1 if you want a bottom margin of 1 inch. So if I switch this back to a half and I click OK, now I'm going to get my full, the text will be able to come down as far as it can fit on the page. You can see here, it's all the way down at the footer box, right on top of it. And my page number is now floating in the middle. So that's just a super common defect.
My guess is that the mystery problem is introduced when somebody's actually looking at the ruler and they accidentally pick up where that dotted line is and move it around.
Oh, yeah, that's true. So it can be adjusted, but this is, it's just shocking to me how often I see this in documents where the page number is all smooshed up against this and they've asked for whatever margin setting they asked for. They're not getting because those two settings are overlapping. Okay, sorry for the rant about that, but I just, this constant irritant of footers and headers. So I'm here in my footer. So let's do some what ifs. I'm on page 1, obviously, of a single section document. The first big what if that I get asked all the time is, what if I don't want to number page 1? Okay, well, I'm in the header footer ribbon, and there's a little checkbox right here. And it says different first page. When I click this box, 2 things will occur. This label will change, and this page number will disappear. So I check the box. As you can see, that's exactly what occurred. Okay, what does this even mean? First page footer, first page header. Here's what it means. Each section of a document has a concealed special snowflake first page header and footer. So if you have a 2-section document, there are 2 of them. They are concealed by default. So if you check this box, basically it pulls this thing out of the drawer and says, okay, here's your first page header and footer for this section of the document. And guess what? It's empty. So like when I'm teaching WordPerfect users this, they're like, what? Because in WordPerfect, you'd put in a page number and you would simply suppress it on that page. There's no equivalent in Word to suppressing something in a header or footer. You simply trot out this whole other header and footer. It doesn't have anything in it. You can put stuff in it if you want. Sometimes people put a document ID or a file and path name and a page number on page 1. In other words, page 1 has more stuff than all the other pages. But more often, they don't want anything in it. If you change your mind, you can put that first page header and footer back in the drawer. Okay, now I get my page number again, check it, and out. So this is you would think I would need a section break to do that, but in fact, I do not. Okay, another application for this, by the way, is letterhead. Oh my God, I probably get 1 a week where someone's like, I'm trying to create my letterhead inside Word, but my masthead, the firm name and address and all that junk on page 1, it keeps every time I go to page 2, then the whole thing comes down to page 2 and I just want it on page 1. Is there yeah, you got to check the first page header footer box. Like if I open up my letterhead, okay, there's my logo. It's just a JPEG inserted into the header. And if I go to page 2, page 2's header is completely different. It's got a date, a page, and a line. Okay, how did I set that up? Well, as you can see, first page header. So I created a blank piece of paper, a blank document. I turned on the first page. I dropped in my logo. I dropped in a watermark. I put in a special footer. And then I go down here and I put in a different one, different header for the rest of the document. And sometimes, not in this case, but a different footer for the rest of the document. And then those are just basically sitting there waiting for me. If I ever get to page 2, I will automatically see the regular header and footer for the rest of the document. This is the first page header. So if you don't do that, you're going to be super irritated. And it's going to show up, your logo or your masthead is going to show up on every subsequent page. Okay, so back to the document at hand. What if, I do want to number page 1, so I leave this box clear. What if I didn't want Arabic paragraph numbering, I wanted Romanettes? No problem. When you insert, when I go page number, current position, plain number, you will 100% of the time, unless there's something weird going on, get Arabic paragraph page numbering. Okay. If that's not what you want, then after you insert it, you go back to the page number button and you say, I want to format those page numbers. And you will have a choice here at the top of the dialog that appears where you can switch it to something else. So if I switch to Romanettes and I click OK, as you can see, I now got a Romanette. And if I switch that back to Arabic, page number, format page numbers, switch back to Arabic, click OK, it is now Arabic. Okay. And just so you know what's going on behind the curtain here, if I were, remember, I don't know if you've ever seen this trick before, but if you right click a field and you say toggle field codes, it'll tell you the name of the field that's creating this. So if I right click and say toggle field codes, this is simply the page field. So I'm going to right click that and toggle the field codes again. That is the same as, you may be aware of where you can insert fields. If you go to the insert ribbon and click on quick parts, there's a field option here. Guess what one of the fields is that's listed in this giant list? Page. If I did this and clicked insert, that is exactly the same as clicking on the page number button and saying current position, plain number. It's the same field. It's just a different way of inserting it. So some people would prefer, like they'll make macros or buttons that will automatically insert the Arabic page field, and then they can always go in and format it however they want. You can also right click and go to edit field, and I can change its format right here, the same as going back to the page number field and changing it there. And I'm only putting this out because some people prefer just directly editing the field instead of using all the buttons. Completely up to you. Okay, so once again, I want to change this from Arabic to Romanettes. So I go back to the page number button, down to format page numbers, and I change it to whatever I want, and it changes. All right. Now, what if I wanted page 1 of, and I wanted a total page count there? Would it be cool if there was a field that automatically counted up the total number of pages and was always right? Yep, therefore that's a thing. Don't type the number. It'll end up being wrong. And you end up with page 15 of 14 and 16 of 14 and 17 of 14. Put in the field. Okay. Now I showed you one way to get to fields. You can click the insert ribbon. You can click on quick parts and choose field. Method number 2, I'm already in the header footer ribbon because I'm in the footer. If you click on the document info button, there's also a field here. So it's just that way I can just stay in the same ribbon. I don't have to switch ribbons. So I click on field, and the field you want is called num pages. Num pages counts up the total number of pages in the document and will always update itself and always be right no matter how many pages you add or delete. So I click OK. Now, sometimes people are like, yeah, but wait, there is if I go to a page number and bottom of page, there's a page X of Y in here someplace. And I may have deleted it actually, but the problem is the page numbers are bold. And as I'm going to point out, if this is a multiple section document, this could end up being wrong, because guess what my next what if is? What if I want to turn off the page numbering for the exhibits? Okay, then this is going to end up being wrong because it's counting up the total number of pages in the entire document regardless of section breaks. All right, so let's do that. What if I don't want to number the exhibits? So I scroll down to my exhibits, and you're going to see I've got consecutive page numbering going on here. So I got 14 to 16. Okay, so as previously discussed, what do we need to do to keep, if I want to have the ability to turn off the page numbering in the footer of exhibit A and B, then I must cut this document into multiple sections. So right now there's a page break sitting here. That won't help me. So I delete that and I replace it with a layout. break, and next page section break. Click. Now I've got a section 2. Let's go see what happened to our footer. Now, this is what I'm talking about. This should now be a 13, not a 16. I'm going to show you how to fix that in a minute. So I come down here and I'm like, okay, well, it started over. That's nice of it, but I don't want any page numbering here at all. Okay, so what do I do about that? You go into your footer. Here is the most insidious thing about section formatting. And I want to draw your attention to it right here. This should say, you better not touch this, because that's what it means. Here's what it's telling me. This is, remember, so Word has lots of predictable, annoying behavior, and this is one of them. I dropped in a section break because I obviously wanted to do something different. That's the only reason I would have inserted a section break. So what does Word do? It connects the headers and footers of the subsequent section to the prior one. If, while that connection persists, I think, well, I want to take this out because I'm in the exhibits. Okay, well, you just remove the page numbering from the rest of the document. And if you put it back here, it's going to put it back here because they're still connected. So here's the rule. Don't even think about touching that until you first sever the link. So again, predictable, annoying behavior. Every time you drop a section break in a document, I absolutely promise it's going to link the subsequent headers and footers to the previous ones. Don't touch it until you cut the link. How do you do that? On your header footer ribbon. Hopefully you can tell that button is pushed. It says link to previous. So if I click on that, you'll see this. The only difference is you're going to see is this disappears. Same as previous is going to go away. So I click on this. Now I've freed myself to do whatever I want in the footer of section 2 and have it not affect section 1. So if I select and delete, no big deal. If I come back up here, you can see I still have my page numbering. So don't forget, don't touch it until you cut the link. It will link them every single time, every single time. Okay, now, I mentioned earlier, this is no longer accurate. What field might solve this problem for me? Well, let's go to the document info and pick field. It is creatively called section pages. Section pages only counts up the number of pages of the section you're in. So if I pick a format and click OK, now I get 13 to 13. That'll always be correct. Now, I actually will talk about this in a subsequent class. There is a feature in Word called auto text, which would make it very easy to reinsert this into a footer anytime I want with 2 clicks. So yes, there's an easy way. Like if you like this, I prefer the section pages field. It's because it's correct in more circumstances. If I had one big, let's say I have a 100-page document, it's all one section. If I use the section pages field, it accurately counts up 100. But if I have a multiple section document and I use that same field, it's also correct. So the num pages field I use first can be wrong if you have section breaks. But the section pages field is going to be correct in more circumstances. So that's the one I always use. I prefer page X of Y formatting. This is how I number all my documents, because I want you to know how many pages there are total. And I use the section pages field for that to make it easy. Anyway, we can go back down here. Since these are disconnected, maybe I do want to number this, but I want to just say Exhibit A, and I want to page number, so if I say Exhibit A, and I'll put a tab over here. This will be a subsequent class that we talk about tabs. And I'm going to go page number, current position, plain number. It puts in a 1. Let's say it wasn't a 1. Okay, so I'm going to make that do continuous page numbering because that's typically what it does anyway. Let's say I want Exhibit A and it came in and it was a 14. And you're like, I need to start over here. No problem. You go back to the page number button and down to format page numbers, and you simply switch from continue from previous section to start at 1. That will flip this 14 to a 1. I could also decide, well, I don't want to number page 1 of section 2. No problem. I check the box up here and I reveal the first page footer of section 2. So those are independent. You could say on the first section, I want to number every page. In the second section, I want to number second and subsequent. No problem. As long as you got a section break, each one of those sections has its own special snowflake hidden first page header and footer, which you can expose or conceal whenever you want. Just got to check the box. Okay. Ivy, any comments?
One of the things that will drive people nuts, especially if you are submitting journal materials or appellate materials, section breaks and the different headers and footers will cause you a lot of trouble. So this is one of those classes that you'll want to bookmark and make it part of your checklist as your final preparation for filing or submitting a document.
So to kind of illustrate that, here's an 8th Circuit Court of Appeals brief. It has a title page, which is not numbered. And then it has a summary of case and oral argument, corporate disclosure statement, table of contents, table of authorities, all of which are numbered Romanette. And as you can see, this is page 2 overall, but it's page 1 Romanette. My corporate disclosure statement continues that, Romanette 2. My table of contents, Romanette 3. Table of authorities, carrying forward, still Romanettes. And then when I get all the way down to jurisdictional statement, I start over at 1, even though this is page 10 overall. So I had no numbering, then Romanette starting at 1, then Arabic starting at 1 for the rest of the document. That was made possible by, you guessed it, section breaks. If I turn on show hide, there's my first one. And at the end of all the TOC, TOA, you'll see another one. So I have a 3-section document created by 2 section breaks, strategically placed, so that I had the ability to switch up the headers and footers. But I did that first. I type my title page, drop in the section break. Nope, I'm not going to mess with page numbering until I get all my sections in. Then I do my TOC, TOA, all that stuff, drop in another section break. Then I at least start the body of the brief. Then I go do my page numbering because I got all my chops in there already, and now I can keep it contained and I can tell Word what I want it to do. Again, and when I dropped this in the first thing, it came in as a 10. So I had to go page number, format page number, and tell it to start at 1, and that flipped it over to a 1. So that is how you set up a complex document like that. You got to think about your architecture before you start filling it with text. And if you do that, then it's pretty easy to control.
And that's all we've got for today. Thanks, Baron.
If page limits matter, then page numbering matters, especially when you're working on important documents that have so much writing on them to get right. But don't let lack of technology skills cause you to spend more time on your page numbers than you spend on your words. Get some outside help. Use Microsoft's page numbering features, then use WordRake to help you find the right words. WordRake is editing software for Microsoft Word and Outlook that will help you get to the point in one click. If you'd like to learn more, sign up to receive tech tips and training videos at wordrake.com/tech-tips. When you're ready to take your work to the next level, try WordRake. WordRake is clear and concise editing software that will improve your writing while respecting legally operative phrases and key legal content. It's a finely tuned collaborator that will help you satisfy clients, win more business, and do more high-value work. WordRake works in Microsoft Word and Outlook. It goes beyond Microsoft's built-in spelling and grammar checkers to help you reduce legalese and wordy writing. It uses complex, patented algorithms to find useless words, dull phrases, weak lead-ins, cliches, and high-level grammatical problems, then offers suggested edits in line. WordRake's document will look just like a smart colleague with an English degree has revised your work using track changes. In 3 simple steps, you'll have a better document or email. Try it today at wordrake.com/trial.